All right, we're going to read chapter 19 together in this video, but I'm going to briefly recap what happens in chapter 18. There's two different parts. The first part is Tom basically uses. You have to remember back when Tom secretly sneaks home. He sneaks in through the door and crawls under the bed, and he overhears Aunt Polly talking with Mrs. Harper. He overhears the plans for the funeral. He waits till everybody goes to bed. He sneaks out, gives Aunt Polly a kiss, and then runs back to the woods. Nobody knows that he actually snuck home. So he tells Aunt Polly and Mary and Sid many of the details from that night and makes them believe that he dreamed all of those things in a dream. Well, when they hear that, of course, they think, well, all of those things actually happened exactly like you said. You must have had a prophetic dream. You must have been able to tell the future. So he kind of, takes some glory for that, and everyone's, so excited, and basically Aunt Polly really loves him for, having told the truth that he had never come home and blah, blah, blah. And then the second half of the chapter, Tom goes back to school. He and Becky Thatcher are still in a bit of an argument, and he decides he's going to get back at Becky Thatcher by flirting with another girl, Amy Lawrence, who happens to be his old girlfriend, his kind of ex-girlfriend. So Becky sees him flirting with Amy. She gets jealous and upset, so she decides she's going to flirt with Alfred Temple. Well, Alfred doesn't really understand that Becky doesn't really like him. She's just trying to make Tom jealous. So at the end of the chapter, Becky can't really help herself, and she ends up getting mad at Alfred Temple, telling him to go away. She doesn't really want to hang out with him in the first place. She was just doing it to make Tom jealous. Well, that makes Alfred Temple really upset, and so he goes back into the schoolroom and pours ink all over Tom's spelling book, which he knows is going to get him in big trouble. Well, Amy Lawrence saw that, so she knows that Alfred is the one that ruined his book and it wasn't Tom's fault. She decides not to say anything because she's mad at Tom Sawyer anyway. So she's just going to let him get in trouble, even though she knows that it wasn't his fault, because she's obviously very hurt by him flirting with Amy. So you kind of have kind of a ridiculous dramatic effect there of Tom and Becky are arguing with each other. They both end up flirting with other people to try and make the other person jealous, and it becomes this big mess. In chapter 19, though, we're going to see this is kind of another interaction between Tom and Aunt Polly. So we'll jump right in and I'll explain as we go. Chapter 19. Tom arrived at home in a dreary mood, basically, not a good mood. And the first thing his aunt said to him showed him that he had brought his sorrows to an unpromising market. "Tom, I have a notion to skin you alive." Never a good thing to hear that when you first walk in the door. Uh, Auntie, what have I done?" "Well, you've done enough. Here I go over to Sarah Harper, which is Joe Harper's mom's house, like an old softy, expecting I'm going to make her believe all that rubbish about that dream, when lo and behold she'd found out from Joe that you was over here and heard all the talk we had that night." Uh-oh. So Aunt Polly goes to Sarah Harper's house to talk about the dream. And she says, "Sarah, you'll never believe it. Tom had this prophetic dream about that night that you came to our house, and he knows everything we said, everything we did. It's simply amazing." And Joe's mom says, "Polly, I don't think that was a dream. Joe told me that Tom was actually there at your house." So Joe doesn't really know it, but he actually ratted Tom out. So Aunt Polly says, "Tom, I don't know what has become of a boy that will act like that. It makes me feel so bad to think that you could let me go to Sarah Harper and make such a fool of myself and never even say a word." Well, this was a new aspect of the thing. His smartness of the morning had seemed to Tom a good joke before, and very ingenious, but it merely looked mean and shabby now. All of a sudden he feels bad because he convinced Aunt Polly it was the truth, let her believe it, and then she went and embarrassed herself, and it's all his fault. He hung his head and could not think of anything to say for a moment. Then he said, Auntie, I wish I hadn't done it, but I didn't think. Oh, child, you never think. You never think of anything but your own selfishness. You could think to come all the way over here from Jackson's Island in the middle of the night to laugh at our troubles, and you could think to fool me with a lie about a dream, but you could never think to pity us and save us from sorrow. You were smart enough to sneak back into the house, weren't you? You were smart enough to make me believe the dream. But what bothers me is that you snuck into the house, you saw how upset we were, and you didn't care enough about us to save us from that kind of sorrow. You didn't tell us that it was all false, you just let us keep on mourning you. So Tom says, Auntie, I know now it was mean, but I didn't mean to be mean. I didn't, honest. And besides, I didn't come over here to laugh at you that night. No? What did you come for then? Well, it was to tell you not be so uneasy about us because we hadn't got drowned. Tom, Tom, I would be the thankfulest soul in this world if I could believe you ever had as good a thought as that. But you know you never did. And I know it, Tom. Oh, here's where Tom gets himself in trouble. He has tricked his aunt one too many times, and now she does not believe him. It's kind of like the boy who cried wolf. She says, Tom, you you fooled me so many times, I don't believe you. Oh, indeed I did, Auntie. I wish I may never stir if I didn't. Tom, don't lie. Just don't do it. It only makes a thing 100 times worse. It ain't a lie, Auntie. It's the truth. I wanted to keep you from grieving. That was all that made me come. Okay, now think back to the chapter where he sneaks back home. Remember when he had that little piece of bark that he had written a note on that he was going to leave on the counter on her nightstand? And at the last second, he grabbed it before he went out the door because he thought, oh, you know what? I have a great idea. And he grabs that bark and goes. So he really is telling the truth. He was on that bark. He had written a note telling her that they were still alive, but he didn't leave it because he wanted to make his appearance at the funeral. I'd give the whole world to believe that. It would cover up a power of sins, Tom. I'd be most glad you'd run off and acted so bad, but it ain't reasonable. Because why didn't you tell me, child? Why, you see, when you got to talking about the funeral, I just got all full of the idea. Went too far. Hold on. Still too far. Ugh, where'd it go? Oh, here it goes. Why, you see, when you got to talking about the funeral, I just got all full of the idea of our coming and hiding in the church, and I couldn't somehow bear to spoil it. So I just put the bark back in my pocket and kept mum. What bark? The bark I had wrote on to tell you we'd gone pirating. I wish now you'd waked up when I kissed you. I do, honest. Hard lines in his aunt's face relaxed, and a sudden tenderness dawned in her eyes. Did you kiss me, Tom? What? Yes, I did. Are you sure you did, Tom? She's trying to decide if she believes him or not. Why, yes, I did, Auntie. Certain sure. What did you kiss me for, Tom? Well, because I loved you so. And you laid there moaning, and I was just so sorry. Well, these words sounded like truth. The old lady could not hide a tremor in her voice when she said, Kiss me again, Tom, and be off with you to school now, and don't bother me any more. The moment he was gone, she ran to a closet and got out the ruin of a jacket which Tom had gone pirating in. Then she stopped, with it in her hand, and said to herself, No, I don't dare. Poor boy, I reckon he's lied about it. But it's a blessed, blessed lie. There's such a comfort to come from it. I hope the Lord, well, I know the Lord will forgive him because it was such good-heartedness in him to tell it. But I don't want to find out it was a lie. I just won't look. Now, why had she grabbed the jacket from the closet? She wanted to check in the pockets and see if there was a piece of bark because she wanted to see, was Tom actually telling me the truth? But in a way, she's like, I don't want to find out it's a lie. I'm going to be so crushed if I hear that it was a lie. I think I'm just going to not find out. I'd rather just not know because he was trying to, even if he did lie, it was just to make me feel better. So I'm not going to find out. She put the jacket away and stood by musing for a minute. Twice she put out her hand to take the garment again, and twice she refrained. Once more she ventured, and this time she fortified herself with the thought, it's a good lie. It's a good lie. I won't let it grieve me. So she sought the jacket pocket. A moment later, she was reading Tom's piece of bark through flowing tears and saying, I could forgive the boy now if he'd committed a million sins. So she finds out that he was, in fact, telling the truth.